Memorizing does not have to be as hard as most people make it. The problem is that most people only know how to memorize by reading the same thing over and over again. You have to learn to memorize. In this video, we're going to look at how the brain remembers, and then show how to use that knowledge to come up with a method for memorizing verbatim text. Any tip or trick that will improve your memory even slightly is well worth the effort. We're going to focus on a technique that will let you easily memorize a speech, memorize the Bible, memorize lines of a play. In the simplified model of the brain used in this discussion, we'll be looking at neurons and synapses. Neurons are parts of the brain that can send and receive electrical signals. Synapses are the paths between neurons. When you remember something, neurons fire signals down particular synapse pathways to other neurons, which in turn fire signals to other neurons. The particular sequence represents a memory. In fact, scientists have been able to make people relive experiences from the past by poking around in their brain with an electrical probe and starting this interaction. Synapses appear to exhibit plasticity. Use determines the strength of the signal they convey. The more a particular synapse is used, the stronger signal it conveys. For example, consider remembering your home telephone number. Since this is a number you use on a regular basis, it probably comes very easily to mind. When you try to recall the number, some neurons fire off a signal down some synapses that carry a very strong signal to other neurons, which do the same thing. The number comes with minimal effort. Now consider a number that you will have trouble remembering. Let's say your driver's license number. For most people, an attempt to recall this number will cause neurons to fire down very weak synapses. If you're like me, the signal is so weak that it will probably not create the necessary chain reaction to recall the number. In fact, all I get is a vague impression that the first letter is an S or an E. To improve your memory of this number, it's necessary to fire the signal down the synapses that will trigger this memory. Practice recalling, not repeating. This is the crucial concept of any type of memorization. The act of reading something you want to memorize fires different connections than the act of recalling. This is how you learn to memorize. You practice recalling, not repeating. This means that simply reading a particular piece of text over and over again is going to be the long road to memorization. You need to let your brain practice recalling the data so that it can strengthen the same pathways that will fire when you need to remember the information later on. You can't practice recalling until the information is at least partially contained in your short-term memory. Now let's look at coming up with a method for memorizing text using our understanding of how the brain works. So let's say we're trying to memorize the Gettysburg Address by Lincoln, which starts, "407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal." The whole 278-word speech is not a particularly long oration, but it will work for our demonstration purposes. Our goal is to create a method that will force our brain to practice recalling the speech even before we have it fully memorized. So, first of all, we need to get it into our mind so our brain has it, even if we can't recall it word for word. Here are a few methods that will work. You could read through it aloud, copy the text by hand, read through the text and create a short outline, have someone else read it to you. There are many other methods as well. Just do something to get a general familiarity with the piece. Now we need to come up with a method to give our brain just enough information to recall the original text without simply reading the original. For example, FSASYAOFBFOTC, ANN, CIL, ADTTPTAMACE, period. What we've done is we've taken the first letter of each word. Now try to recite the first sentence of this speech while looking at those letters. You'll probably get partway into it and get confused. Back up a few letters and look beyond the letter you're struggling with to see if you can figure it out. Remember, you're trying to help your brain find the right connections. If you have to consult the original, make note of what confused you and start over. I found this method to be much more productive for memorizing verbatim text than just about anything else. I used it extensively in high school. It will help improve your memory by giving you a way to practice. However, keep in mind that it is simply one method. When you need to memorize something, think about how to help your brain practice recalling the information, not merely repeating it over and over again. Your goal is to quickly get the information into your short-term memory so you can start practicing the recall process and move the information into long-term memory. If this method seems useful, please share it with a friend. And if you have any other suggestions on ways to memorize, please leave them in the comments below. And click the subscribe button so you'll be notified whenever we release a new video.